Hi, second grade. I'm Darby. I'm Mr. Duncan's mystery reader for the week or for the day, whatever you're watching this. And today I'm going to be reading Two of Everything. It's by Lily Toy Hong, and I hope you enjoy. A question I want you to think about as I read this story is what good things happen when people work together? So, Two of Everything. Once long ago, in a humble little hut, lived Mr. Hawk-Talk and his wife, Mrs. Hawk-Talk. They were old and very poor. What little they ate came from their tiny garden. In a lucky year, when the harvest was plentiful, Mr. Hawk-Talk had a little extra to take to the village. There he traded turnips, potatoes, and other vegetables for clothing, lamp oil, and fresh seeds. One spring morning, when Mr. Hawk-Talk was digging in his garden, his shovel struck something hard. I wonder what it is. Puzzled, he dug deeper into the dark ground until he came upon an ancient pot made of brass. "How odd," said Mr. Hawk-Talk to himself. "To think that I have been digging here all these years and never came upon this pot before. I will take it home. Maybe Mrs. Hawk-Talk can find some use for it." The pot was big and heavy from old Mr. Hawk-Talk. As he stumbled along, his purse, which contained his last 5 coins, fell to the ground. He tossed it into the pot for safekeeping and staggered home. His wife greeted him at the door. "Dear husband, what a strange pot!" Mr. Hawk-Talk explained how he found the pot. "I wonder what we can do with it," said Mrs. Hawk-Talk. "It looks too large to cook in and too small to bathe in." What do you think they're going to use the pot for? If it's too small and too big for what they want to do, I guess we'll find out and see. As Mrs. Hawk-Talk leaned over to peer into the pot, her hairpin, the only one she owned, fell in. She felt around in the pot, and suddenly her eyes grew round with surprise. "Look!" she shouted. "I've pulled out 2 hairpins, exactly alike, and 2 purses too." Sure enough, the purses were identical, and so were the hairpins. Inside each purse were 5 gold coins. Mr. Hawk-Talk was so excited he jumped up and down. "Let's put my winter coat inside the pot. If we are lucky again, the pot will make 2 coats, and then we will both stay warm." So into the pot went 1 coat, and out came 2 coats. They began to search the house and quickly put more things into the magical pot. "If only we had some meat," wished Mr. Hawk-Talk, "or fresh fruit, or one delicious sweet cake." Then they wouldn't have only one of those things, but they would have 2, wouldn't they? Mrs. Hawk-Talk smiled. "I know how we can get anything we want," she said. She put their 10 coins into 1 purse and threw it into the pot. She pulled out 2 purses with 10 coins in each. "What a clever wife I have!" cried Mr. Hawk-Talk. "Each time we do this, we will have twice as much money as before." The Hawk-Talks worked late into the night, filling and emptying the pot until the floor was covered with coins. Morning came, and off went Mr. Hawk-Talk with a long list of things to buy in the village. Instead of vegetables, his basket was full of gold coins. What do you think he's going to use the gold coins for? Good ideas. Mrs. Hawk-Talk finished all of her chores and sat down to enjoy a cup of tea. She sipped her tea and admired the brass pot. Then, with a grateful heart, she knelt and embraced it. "Dear pot, I do not know where you came from, but you are my best friend." She stooped over the pot to look inside. At that very moment, Mr. Hawk-Talk returned. His arms were so full of packages that he had to kick the door open. Bang! Mrs. Hawk-Talk was so startled that she lost her balance and fell head first into the pot. Uh-oh. What do you think's going to happen to Mrs. Hawk-Talk? I guess we'll find out. Mr. Hawk-Talk ran over and grabbed his wife's legs. He pulled and tugged until she slid out onto the floor. But when he looked at the pot again, he gasped. 2 more legs were sticking straight out of it. Naturally, he took hold of the ankles and pulled. Out came You guessed it, 2 Mrs. Hawk-Talks. She looked exactly like his wife, 2 of them. The new Mrs. Hawk-Talk sat silently on the floor, looking lost. But the first Mrs. Hawk-Talk cried, I am your wife, and only wife. Put that woman back into the pot right now. Mr. Hawk-Talk yelled, No! If I put her back, we will not have 2 women, but 3. 1 wife is enough for me. He backed away from his angry wife and tripped and fell headfirst into the pot himself. Oh boy, we have a mess here. So how do you think their feelings are going to change after they got all this money before and now they're going to have 2 of each of them? I don't know. We'll find out. Both Mrs. Hawk-Talks rushed to rescue him. Each grasped an ankle and together they pulled him out. And you guessed it, there were 2 more legs in the pot. So they pulled out the other Mr. Hawk-Talk too. Just what use does one Mr. Hawk-Talk have for another? Mr. Hawk-Talk cried angrily. This pot is not as wonderful as we thought it would be. Now even our troubles are beginning to double. But his wife had been thinking while he was yelling. What do you think she's thinking about? Good ideas. Calm down, she said. It is good that the other Mrs. Hawk-Talk has her own Mr. Hawk-Talk. Perhaps we will become best of friends. After all, we are so alike. He will be a brother to you, and she is a sister to me. With our pot, we can make 2 of everything, so there will be plenty to go around. And that is what they did. The Hawk-Talks built 2 fine new homes. Each house had identical teapots, rice bowls, silk embroideries, and bamboo furniture. From the outside, the houses looked exactly alike, but there was one difference. Hidden in one house was a big brass pot. Of course, the Hawk-Talks were always very careful not to fall into it again. So we know what happened last time. So you see, they have 2 of everything. So all turned out okay in the end. The new Hawk-Talks and the old Hawk-Talks did become good friends. The neighbors thought that the Hawk-Talks had grown so rich that they decided to have 2 of everything, even themselves. So, a great story about 2 of everything. The main question was, what good things happen when people work together? So as the story began, they were kind of excited about the pot that they found, weren't they? And that they were able to make 2 of everything. And it was making them happy. But then when they found out that when each of them fell in, it created 2 of them. And that kind of caused a little kind of grumpy attitudes toward each other, which can happen sometimes with us even. But the Mrs. Hawk-Talk found a solution and said, you know what? If we can work together, we can make this work, can't we? And they made it work in the end, didn't they? Yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed 2 of Everything by Lily Toy Hong. As I said, I'm Darby, and I hope you guys are having a great last week of school, I guess whenever you watch this. And I hope you guys have a great summer. Thanks for listening. Bye.